अगली डिस्कशन होगी ग्लोबल एंड पाकिस्तान एलएनजी मार्केट, बिजनेस एंड सप्लाई चेन, और मैं तमाम शुरका को वेलकम करता हूँ. Gentlemen, welcome. I would first like to start with Mr. Adnan Gilani. Just briefly tell about your company.
Well, Pakistan LNG is a government-owned, state-owned company that was created to manage the entire supply chain of LNG in Pakistan. Based on the massive energy and gas crisis that took place over the last decade and a half, there was a need to have an urgent solution to our energy problem. So what Pakistan LNG does is it basically procures the LNG at the best possible prices from all over the world. It has contracted the terminal to regasify that LNG, to put it into the system, and either directly sells to the utilities or any end users like the power plants or industry. So it's the entire full supply chain management company that is owned by the government.
So how do you look at the overall LNG market in Pakistan? Do you see more demand coming in and more investors coming in as well?
To answer that question, I need to put something into perspective as to what was going on before LNG came into Pakistan. We had a decade-long energy and gas crisis. Based on that, the demand-supply gap for just gas was 2 to 4 BCF, depending upon what you refer to as constrained or unconstrained. So we see a lot of potential. And one other number, before our energy crisis, Pakistan and India had the same per capita usage of electricity, around 440 to 450 kilowatt hours per person. India went to 1300, we stayed there, meaning that our energy needs just to get back to historical norms is 3 times what we're consuming right now. And what that means is that you're going to have a massive demand once the economy starts cranking up. And we see a lot of potential for investment as well as consumption, which is unmet.
Okay, Mr. Fadi Mithri, Mr. Adnan Gilani just mentioned that his company, tries to procure gas at the best or competitive rates, if you would say. Do you believe that Pakistan is getting LNG on globally competitive rates?
I do think so. PLL is running international tenders that are transparent, open to anybody who meets the criteria for bidding. So there is no reason why they wouldn't get market price.
And a little bit about your company and how do you see Pakistan's LNG market?
Trafigura is an international independent energy and commodity trading company. We're headquartered in Singapore and with our main management structure in Geneva. To give you a sense of who we are, we have annual revenue of about $180 billion a year. Now, in LNG, we deliver approximately 10 million tons per cargo per year. So it's one cargo every two days. When we look at Pakistan, we see a lot of growth potential for private sector LNG imports for private sector consumers in Pakistan. This is what we see as the greatest growth potential for the Pakistani LNG and gas market.
Okay. I understand that you have not been able to fully utilize your capacity. What could be the reasons for that?
As far as we are concerned, we think that Pakistan is one very, very, very small step away from allowing private sector LNG imports to serve private sector customers in Pakistan through that spare capacity. It is one small step. And to answer your question, that very small step is nothing else than agreeing modalities for the use of this excess capacity with Pakistan LNG Terminals Limited, or PLTL. Once we have agreed these modalities, we will be able to import a private LNG cargo and sell it to a consumer of Pakistan without the help or the guarantees or any form of subsidy or support from the government of Pakistan.
Mr. Zaimur Khan, I realize that your company is also working on the LNG projects. So you have a partner at all. So can you elaborate and tell us about your plans going forward?
Hascol is the second largest oil marketing company in Pakistan right now by volume. Vitol is one of our key shareholders. They own about 28% of Hascol. Vitol is also, I believe, the largest independent energy company in the world. So it's not publicly traded, privately owned. They own about, or they trade about 10 million tons of LNG a year, which they delivered successfully all across the world last year. They're an investor in Hascol Petroleum as well as in Hascol Terminals. And we are pleased to be in a partnership with them to secure a leading position in LNG in Pakistan, where they will be partnering with us on the entire value chain. As Hascol, our role will be on the marketing side. And there we are pleased that the government has put in place the third-party access rules for the pipeline portion of the supply chain. On the terminal side, I agree with Fadi that there is a need to open up that capacity as well. And I believe there is some work going on to do that.
Mr. Christoph, coming to you, can you share some plans of your company?
Of the company, we are very confident about Pakistan. And on LNG, because we are a major LNG player and because Pakistan is one of the most, I would say, prospective growing market, you have to be present and you have to be very serious about it, whether as LNG supplier or potentially as investor, as direct investor in an LNG terminal. And that's what we are presently doing. We are very interested by a project in Port Qasim. Of course, in Port Qasim now everything is really pending the definition of the LNG zone and the framework and the rule of the game for the investors, how securing a terminal location. So we are anxious to get clarification on the LNG zone and on the rule of the game. We cannot miss the Pakistan opportunities.
Okay. And Mr. Ansar Ahmed Khan, like all these gentlemen, they have highlighted the opportunities. So the opportunities are there. But how do you see the current situation? Do you see that we need more reforms, and what kind of reforms do we need?
Let me start by talking about the demand. We know the demand is there.
Yeah.
The biggest challenge in Pakistan will continue to be affordability. Why do I say that? If you look at the sectors right now, there are possibly 3 sectors that can buy LNG. There's the power sector, there's the transport sector, and the industrial sector. Analysis was done by a consultant. We can help open the market if landed prices of LNG are between 10 and 11% Brent. Anything above that, the government will continue subsidizing. The LNG import price is not the biggest problem. There are other issues. For example, a cargo delivered in December, which came at the port at $8.78, was delivered to customers on the distribution network at about $12. That's 30% additional. We can't afford this. So we've got to rationalize those costs.
Let me just ask the other panelists about suggestions that they would like to make to the government. Mr. Taimur Khan.
The government needs to focus on reducing what is known as unaccounted for gas, because what happens is if you're importing LNG for, let's say, even $10, you'll add another $1 or so on it for unaccounted gas, which accounts for about 10%. And I think half of that is theft and the other half is other technical losses and what have you. So in the short term, I think the subsidies, while they will exist, you could focus on reducing those as well, but these are things which also need to be addressed, like improving the efficiency of the distribution network in Pakistan. Okay. In addition, introducing competition like a competitive model where the private sector can work hand in hand with the public sector to meet the needs of the end consumer in a competitive way along with a level playing field.
Mr. Christoph, any suggestions for the government?
For us, we are really cost concerned. So definitely the cost of LNG import is important, but you need to have a cheap terminal. So a good location and also a good low APC with the lowest possible taxes, because there is a number of taxes when you build a terminal. One day when you really build the RLNG3, when you build the additional pipeline to Punjab, you have to think how to make it affordable for the newcomers.
Okay. Mr. Fadi Mitri, would you like to add something to that?
I think we need to recognize that if you look at time zero and you put in 2011 and you look at now, 2019, there has been tremendous progress. And of course, now we're talking about the next step.
There are opportunities in the LNG market. We have been discussing that, but do you see any threats? Because, you know, in the morning we spoke about the Tapi gas pipeline project, and then we have that ultra deep, you know, offshore drilling going on with ENI, ExxonMobil, and OGDC and PPL, and we'll be talking about that later in one of our panels. So I also know that there's a huge demand-supply gap, close to 2 BCF. But do you see any threats going forward?
We are very, very hopeful that all of the things that you just mentioned come to some level of fruition, but you can't shut down your country waiting for that to happen.
Of course.
And in that situation, with TAPI, with IP, if that's the case, or any new finds, it will play a role in filling that gap, but that gap is very, very large. It's 2 to 4 BCFD. So, I mean, we would welcome everything because it'll be good for Pakistan.
Right. So, yes, Mr. Fadi Mithri, brief comment.
Once the model is demonstrated, most of the foreign investor here present and local investor here present and on the other side of the camera will be investing in gas infrastructure in Pakistan because they see there is a healthy business to be made.
Thank you. Mr. Taimur Khan?
I think allow the private sector to participate, and we are on that road already, in order to allow foreign investors to come here. You have to allow them to make money, and for that they need credit-worthy buyers, and that is the road that we need to go on.
Okay. Mr. Christoph, brief comment on threats?
Regarding the role of LNG for the Pakistan gas market, we are very confident. Of course, there is this deep offshore prospect, which are quite large, and but regarding timing, so we wish all the success, and it would be very good for the country, certainly for the balance of payment, commercial balance. So it's essential. So definitely, it will be very good news. But even for LNG suppliers, because we know that the first commercial gas on this kind of industrial ventures come much later, could be a decade after the first discovery well.
As a businessman, the biggest threat I see are renewables. I'll give you the example of Japan. Japan, until a few years ago, was a summer and a winter peaking market. It's now a winter peaking market only because domestic users are taking solar energy and they're putting in the grid. So renewable, as a businessman, gives me the biggest threat. The next is going to be pipeline, of course, as you mentioned. As a Pakistani, I think this is a wonderful opportunity. Absolutely brilliant for us.
Okay, gentlemen, thank you very much for your valuable comments. Please take your seat. हमारी अगली डिस्कशन होगी ऑयल एंड गैस एक्सप्लोरेशन सेक्टर पे, और मैं तमाम शुरका को यहाँ वेलकम करता हूँ. Gentlemen, welcome to this panel discussion. For me, it's a very exciting panel because oil and gas exploration, and you know, there's a lot of hype. And this video I really liked because, you know, this shows, and we would like to incorporate this video in our television program, which will come out of this conference, so people of Pakistan can also see what's happening offshore in Pakistan. This project, of course, we have OGDC, PPL, ENI, and ExxonMobil are the partners. And even though we have had unsuccessful offshore drillings so far, but there's a lot of hope in this project. So I would like to start from this, and I would like to ask our panelists, starting with Mr. Zahid, why is there so much excitement in this particular project? What is it that we don't know and you guys know?
This is a exploration well, which is a high risk and high reward. And the excitement is because it is a high reward. And we are talking about a structure which potentially can hold multi-TCF. So somewhere between maybe 5, 6, 7, 8 TCF. I mean, you know, still have to see. But that's why the excitement is. The excitement is also, I mean, I'll let you know the small story. When Exxon came to us and gave us a presentation, they said that they have selected this opportunity out of a possible opportunities of 100 opportunities all over the world. So they have selected this opportunity. So they must have some confidence. The excitement is also due to the fact because we are talking about well, which can potentially produce, which can potentially discover a field of maybe 5 TCF, 6, 7, 8 TCF, a size of a sui. I mean, you know, these are all speculations. But remember, you should not be too much excited about it. I mean, it's a high risk well. We are talking about a probability of success of maybe 12 to 15%.
I'm sure there's a lot of studies before you go and decide to drill at a particular place. So there must be some data that probably made all of you to get together and start drilling again, even though the previous attempts offshore in Pakistan have been unsuccessful. So can you share that with us?
This structure is very well known ever since then. And I have been studying this structure since then. Because the seismic lines were available, the data was available and all that. So ENI has not done anything new, or they haven't acquired any new data.
Okay.
They are still using the same old data, but they have done a lot of studies on this. This block was given to ENI as an operator, I think in 2009 or 10, or 10 or 11 or something. And we were 4 partners. PPL, OGDCL, BP, and ENI. ENI was the operator. And then BP wanted to shut off their share, so we took their share 8.33% each. And then lately, ExxonMobil entered in this joint venture. And because of this name, all of us parted our 8.33% each back to them to let them come into those joint ventures. It's only 1 year old. So that's the story. What has really happened during this time, that ENI has made a very significant gas discovery offshore Egypt in Mediterranean.
Okay.
It's called Zohr discovery. It's about 25 TCF. And that is drilled on the similar structure, almost the similar structure that has been mapped here in Kekra, the well which is being drilled. And that was the excitement that prompted ExxonMobil to come into this. So that is the excitement that has been created out of it. But as Zahid Mir Saab said, as I also mentioned offline, that we work in a high risk, highly capital intensive, especially when you're talking about deep water offshore, $80 million well, and very high and potentially high reward.
Once you shoot the seismic, and when you process the data, and once you interpret, then you can map a structure.
Okay.
Right now you roughly know what the size of the structure is, and then you would basically certain assumptions based on the wells that have been already drilled. For example, what is the possible porosity there? What's the possible permeability there? And based on many assumptions, you basically come up with the number. And number is a range. I mean, you tweak the number of the porosity, and the 3 TCF will go to 3.5, and tweak the water saturation a bit, and then the number will increase. So based on those results of the seismic, we know it's a big structure. Now, it can be as big as 8 TCF or maybe 5 TCF. So, but until you physically go and drill, you see the cuttings, and you see what is the actual, you do the logging, and you know what is the actual porosity and possible permeability, and this reservoir section thickness that you will be drilling. The thickness will basically can change everything. So if you are assuming a thickness of 50 meters and you encounter 100 meters, then the reserves will be increased.
Right.
So that is why, I mean, Veena, it's all, for the time being, it's all assumptions and it is all possibilities. And unless and until we drill, I mean, we don't know.
Okay. Mr. Andrew, if I may come to you now, and let's move onshore and talk about the potential in Pakistan.
One thing, there are the reserves. Question, are some reserves available in Pakistan nowadays? I strongly believe yes. If you ask me why, first of all, because I'm geologist and we are just supposed to believe that what we are doing brings some value. If you ask for some proofs for that, fortunate in our current license, we made 2 discoveries and still we preserve some kind of appetite for more. Of course, whole Pakistan is not just one license. So looking around for the new opportunities, I believe we are proving by ourselves that we still believe that the potential is here. If it comes to regulatory things, in general, very briefly speaking, without entering into the details, I believe that regulatory behavior is quite nice for the E&P companies, but not to be too sweety, I believe that there are few points which may be tweak up.
Mr. Moin, I think you wanted to make a comment here.
Many discoveries have been made. Well, in Pakistan, so far 387 discoveries have been made, and more than 1,070 exploration wells have been drilled. So out of that, it is like about, if you say it's that it's a ratio of like 3.3, 1:3.3 or 33% of the, which is very good by world standard. But a lot of exploration remains to be done in the interior part of the hilly areas. I call it fold belt. So a lot of fold belt needs to be explored. In the Kirthar fold belt, the Suleiman fold belt, in the KPK, the fold belt, and similarly the Balochistan province, when I say Balochistan basin, the Kharan basin, the Makran area, they're all unexplored.
Can I add one thing? I mean, there is no doubt that, we need to explore more. And you need to see some facts. And the fact is that in the last 10 years, most of the bigger companies have left Pakistan. And we need to understand why. One is, generally 2012 policy is not a bad policy, but there are still a long list of things that we need to improve in that policy.
Okay.
The most important other thing is the regulation. The regulator, the decision making needs to be improved. The speed of the decisions is required to be improved, and most of the companies would not wait for the regulator. And there are so many examples here that because of the late decision makings, the value was not able to be achieved. And apart from that, there are other policies. For example, we need to come up with new shale gas policy. Moin talked about the game changer thing. Yes, offshore will be, well, to some extent, a game changer in the sense that you'll be able to start new activities in the offshore.
Okay.
However, remember, even if there is a discovery, we are talking about maybe 5 years, at least 5 years, before we'll be able to put in on production. Maybe 5 to 6, 7, 8 years. Very expensive. We're talking about billions of dollars. We're talking about, and then what we need to do is, we need to start working on the shale gas, which I believe can be a game changer. If there is a better policy in the shale, then we need to put in efforts for the EOR. So, the other most and the last thing is, in the past, the governments have not honored their commitments.
Why have we been going at a slow pace when we need more discoveries?
In Pakistan, there are three very positive things are here in Pakistan with respect to the exploration. One is that the fiscal regime is very good. As he said, 2012 policy is very good. It has no issue. 90% things are okay. We need 10 to 15% little bit improvement. Number two, the market is already available. If you produce today 1 barrel, you can sell it tomorrow. So market is there, the energy deficiency is there. And third thing is all the international companies can remit whatever they earn, they can send back to the country. Very freedom of the remittance, no issue. And fourth thing is that 60% area still need to be explored. However, the offshore will be game changer if we got a good discovery. The other game changer will be discovery from the Balochistan region. And the third one is the Kohat region, the KPK area. They have a big structure and they are promising. Another important blessing of God is that we got a very good shale unconventional reservoir potential. Nearly 1700 TCF potential resources available. You can have a discovery of 10% or 20%, whatever. Even it is a 20%, is much better than 3 sui fields. So that has to be addressed. As he said, Zahid Saab, we need to formulate the shale gas policy. We need to encourage people.
The policy is not right or is still not supporting more investment into shale gas and shale exploration?
Okay. Procedures which actually take too much time. Decision which you may say in European reality should take week, month. Here, sorry to say, may very easily take 3, 5 months, half of the year, years sometimes. And actually, especially if such decisions are related to pricing, then, okay, you are producing the well and wait to see you invested, you may say, just let's say $20 million for that, and you are waiting more than 1 year to see one single penny of revenue from it.
Can I just add into this circular debt, because for us it's very, very important, and I just want to highlight it. And most of the people don't realize this. First of all, I mean, the company our receivable without any late payment surcharge is about 250 billion rupees.
As of today?
So it's as of today. It's a lot of money, and I know that PPL is about 150 or so. So I mean, that's so it's a lot of money.
Gentlemen, thank you very much for your valuable comments. Please take your seat. अब हम एनर्जी इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर पर तफसील से बात करेंगे. मैं तमाम जो पैनलिस्ट हैं उनको वेलकम करता हूं, उनको शुक्रिया अदा करता हूं. Mr. Mubin Saulad, if I can begin with you, just tell us a little bit about your company and what exactly you are doing.
Interstate Gas Company is primarily looking after the gas import projects, and we also deal with the gas infrastructure projects. The primary task was given to explore the opportunities which are available in the vicinity of Pakistan. And that's what we have done. We have locked in the arrangement with Turkmenistan and Iran. They're holding one of the largest gas reserves in the world, and also have helped the country in securing the LNG supplies from Qatar. So as an achievement for the country in particular, we have locked in the resources from the vicinity, and this means that we have ensured the energy security for years to come. Recently, we have signed an MOU with one of the largest gas company in the world, Gazprom. It's an integrated package, and we are executing the feasibility study for the offshore gas pipeline, and it will be linked up with the North-South gas pipeline, which is yet another arrangement with the Russian entities. And besides, we will be developing the gas underground storages. So it's an integrated package which should bring in not only billions of dollars of foreign investment, but also an infrastructure to ensure that we have sufficient gas resources available for our future requirement. TEPI, our counterpart, you've heard Mr. Amanov, is also our counterpart with ISGS, and it is very much in the execution phase. We hope to bring in the gas in the year 2021, inshallah, and with the full flow expected a year after, this should be enough to meet our immediate gas shortage.
Security is one big issue, and with Tapi gas pipeline, security situation in Afghanistan, everybody knows about it. So what has been done about that?
We are working with Afghanistan government and Pakistan government. They're very supportive to us on the security and all other issues. I don't think that we will face too heavy issues with...
But have you received any assurances from the Afghan government in terms of security of this pipeline?
Yeah, actually, back in 2010 and 11, there were signed two documents: intergovernmental agreement and gas pipeline framework agreement. Within that documents, all participant countries are assured about security of the project.
Mr. Kamran Hassan, I believe, again, I think you must be facing the same kind of security situation in Balochistan, because we have had incidences of pipelines being blown up. So what is your view on this, on the security situation and to protect the infrastructure that you have?
The most remarkable thing that I actually came across as when I was actually laying the line was that people actually had enough time to dig about 3 to 4 meters, then lay a charge and then actually explode the pipeline, which meant that nobody was patrolling and it's always out in the boondocks. Yes, we would like to have an infrastructure which improves the oversight of security along our transmission as well as certain peripheral distribution pipelines. We would like to see that because that would benefit us as well as the people that we are supplying gas to quite a bit.
Okay. Mr. Solid, coming back to you, you mentioned that the Tapi pipeline hopefully will have gas flowing in 2021. That seems a bit ambitious, or am I wrong to assume that?
For us, it is happening. Inshallah, I mean, we should be geared up and be ready for this supply. And one thing which I have earlier mentioned, that what is important to note, that if you add up all these volumes, 3 volumes, Tapi, Iran, wherever it will come on board, and the supplies of LNG, if you add up all these volumes, they are almost equal the volumes which we are producing right now. And in a sense, it gives us a basket and enough security for the future energy requirement. And at the same time, like I mentioned, a breather for the country, for the government to start working, on the indigenous supplies as well. So this whole network is, in our view, is a brilliant attempt, and it must be appreciated whether it was done previously in the previous government or it is continued to happen in this present government. Apart from that, I mentioned about the gas storages. The plan is that with the support of countries like Gazprom, companies like Gazprom, and you have also heard in the other panel, the Italians, the Eni, they're also very keen. I have met with the UAE-based companies. They have also expressed a lot of interest. So which is not only giving us the strategic storages facilities, but also a continuous uninterrupted supply of gas to our power hubs.
Okay, it's still called Tapi, India is still there, but when it comes to Pakistan and India, I'm sure everybody knows the background. So do you think India will stay on board?
There are commitments from all participants. We have again signed intergovernmental agreement, gas pipeline framework agreement. Even we have with all counterparties gas sales and purchase agreement, offtake agreements. And also, they already injected some several millions of dollars to the project. I don't think that kind of things will happen because they are committed and they continue working with us.
Mr. Kamran, if you can share some projects that your company is undertaking in terms of infrastructure, laying pipelines.
There is a very ambitious expansion plan that SSGC has because of the growing demand for gas, both in the urban as well as in the rural sector. In addition to that, 2 or 3 major transmission pipelines are being studied. The challenges befalling them are also being looked at because we had a very tough time when we were doing the 42-inch RLNG pipeline. So those challenges and those opportunities are being looked at very, very carefully. And we hope that within the next 5 to 6 months, they should be initiated. Interior Sindh, interior Balochistan, not as much, but yes, we have a very rigorous expansion plan for village gasifications in new town and villages.
Mr. Swagat, earlier in the day, Mr. Iqbal Zaid Ahmed mentioned, and actually he was, saying that these inter-country pipelines are not feasible anymore if, there's some tension in one country and something happened, if a war breaks out. So I think you are in direct competition now with this LNG business. So how would you respond to that?
Pipeline, by all means, remain the cheapest option. It's the most economical option. If you want me to analyze the options which we have, pipe gas versus LNG, of course, LNG is a premium product. It will remain expensive than the pipeline projects. Of course, there is a massive capital investment required for the pipeline projects. There are other issues as well. So there are, while there are flexibilities available for the LNG supplies, there is a continuity and uninterrupted supply in case of the pipe gas. So there are pros and cons for both. We look at it in a holistic way, that this basket should give us, the most competitive and sustainable option.
Okay, one last question, if you can briefly answer that for your specific area, are you satisfied with the government policies, current government policies, or do you have some suggestions?
Lots of work which is already in place have given them or should give them enough space to work out what is the best option available. Okay. So they are working on the priorities. They are on the list which we have shared with them. TAPI is certainly top on the agenda, and we are getting support for that. Similarly, you have seen recently the initiative of MOU for the offshore gas fund, which is very well appreciated, and we have the full support from the present government for the execution of the same. So as far as our area is concerned, we think that a lot has already been done, and the present government is now comfortably placed to evaluate and set a priority which one needs to be done first and which can be deferred in the future.
Okay, with that we'll conclude this discussion. Gentlemen, thank you very much. Please take your seats. और हमारा अगला जो पैनल डिस्कशन है वो एनर्जी यूजर्स पे है. मैं इस पैनल के तमाम जो पार्टिसिपेंट्स हैं उनको वेलकम करता हूं. Gentlemen, welcome to this panel discussion. As you realize, we have big problems when it comes to energy, whether it's power, especially power. And one of the previous panel discussions we had, they mentioned the circular debt that there is in the power sector, and you know what. So how are you planning to, let's say, tackle all these huge issues?
Okay, you put me on the hot seat right away. But fair question. The much reviled circular debt, unfortunately, emanates from sort of my sector. We all talk about circular debt, but it's not some magic number. It is made up of, and that the way to understand our strategy and what we are doing, you've got to understand what it is. Otherwise,
yes, go ahead,
and then we can come to right? That. So one is the subsidy part of the tariff build-up. The other is the loss part of the tariff process or the cost. The reason we have bought some time is to try and address these two issues separately. One, we need to make sure the government pays up and the various provincial governments make their payments as and when they are required to be made as determined by NEPRA, because there is a subsidy that needs to come in. So we're trying to fix the system by which the federal and the provincial governments make their part of the payment. On the utility side, we are trying to reduce the losses that are incurred primarily due to theft and the aging or under-invested distribution system. The combination of these should help us reduce the losses from about 30% down to about 15 to 20%, which will eliminate a large portion of what we have been calling circular debt, at least from an operational standpoint.
What does your analysis show about the current power problems that the people are facing in Pakistan, and how are you prioritizing them that, okay, number one, we'll tackle this, number two, this?
The biggest issue is availability of power and the cost of power, right? I believe availability of power is to a large extent, at least for the next few years, not going to be an issue given the addition of, although somewhat expensive sources of power, imported coal and RLNG. But we don't foresee large shortages in the next few years in generation purely.
Right.
However, there will still be some issues related to capacity constraints and related to distribution constraints. So we are in the process of fixing those now.
Adil Bashir, how do you see, because see the whole day we, in different panel discussions, the cost element was one very important thing that we heard from different panelists. And Mr. Shahzad also just mentioned the cost. He realizes the cost needs to come down, but that will take time. So do you think this is one big issue?
I think supply constraints are somewhat tackled for the time being. We started about the cost of electricity on the grid. For example, we are being charged as an industry around 12 rupees a unit today. But if you look at the fuel component of the energy mix of Pakistan, it is less than 6 rupees. So you can imagine the kind of improvement that can be done. I understand the system losses could be 20 or 30%, but I do not understand that how can you sell 6 rupee kilowatt per unit at 12, 18 or as high as 25 rupees. So that the government needs to look that where is the pilferage and where are the line losses and what's going on. Currently, the industry cannot even afford the current RLNG prices. The whole of Pakistan should be getting energy at one price. Today, Sindh, KPK, Balochistan, they're getting gas at 600 rupees an MMBTU. And if you convert into dollars, it's $4.3. So one country, we have the cheapest energy or cheapest gas price in one part of the country and the most expensive gas price in Punjab, for example, because Punjab does not produce any gas. So I think we need to look at the pricing, whatever we are doing, whatever projects that are in the pipeline, whether it be gas or power plants, you need to understand that the consumer consumer should be able to afford it.
Right.
But with the current scenario, I don't think, especially the exporting industry, it cannot afford these prices.
Okay, Dr. Fatma, if I can come to you now. You represent the independent power producers, and of course, circular debt is a huge issue over there. But as Mr. Qasim said, they are formulating a policy where they would want to retire this huge debt. Do you just like keep nagging the government to pay up, or do you give some suggestions as well?
I guess it's a bit of both.
Okay.
When we are in a severe liquidity crunch, then perhaps that's the only way to go, keep nagging them. But at the same time, that was just on a lighter note. We are actually very much in negotiations with the government on not only how to resolve this, but also how to help this amount not build up in future. Okay. So not that it's something which we keep blaming the government on. We really understand the fact that the IPPs and the government are in this together. So as much as we want this money to be paid, we also understand the constraints that the government is facing. And like I think previously it was also said, they're only 5 months old. So we need to give them that time to really come up with the proper plan. It's something which, there's no quick fix to it. It's not something which has just happened overnight, or we should expect it to go overnight. But yes, we really appreciate all the efforts that they are making, and this perhaps this is the time that they are engaging with the sector as well to jointly sit together and resolve this circular debt issue in particular.
Riaz Paracha Sahab, if I can come to you, you have your own issues with the CNG sector, and we keep watching you on television whenever the prices are increased, or you don't get gas, or your CNG stations are closed. So what are you expecting from the government?
In my opinion, if government will allow the private LNG import and private selling the gas, it may be, price will be reduced and the gas will be available. So there is 5 things which if we will import private LNG can be helping to reduce the price. Number 1, the price factor, maybe private sector get good price. Number 2, regasification charges will be reduced when the gas quantity will be more than. Third, the retainage in the terminal, that will be reduced. Fourth, when volume of the gas in the pipe is, the distribution tariff from the gas companies will be reduced, and the UFG, the major thing. So these 5 factors will be reduced. So we have given the proposal to the government that if you want to save the foreign exchange, you have 2 options. One option is you have to increase your export, and they are doing this thing. They have given special tariff and package to the export-oriented industry. And second, you have to reduce your import. So in our thing, if government will allow private LNG import, it will be 46% cheaper than the petroleum products. So it will save the foreign exchange at import level.
For more generation and affordable electricity, the dam projects are there. We do know that some money has been accumulated. So are you planning to move aggressively on both these dam projects? And what is being done? Because I think it seems like if you talk to people, the initial has been dying down. It's fizzling out. So do you agree with that, and how do you respond to it?
No, I think it's not just dams. Okay, what we are looking at is adding the cheapest source of generation to the system. As I mentioned earlier,
yeah.
The situation is that the total cost of renewable, that is wind and solar, is now less than just the incremental cost of most of the thermal generation that we have. So as a policy now, we're coming out with a new renewable energy policy. We are going to unleash this sector and hope to take renewable energy generation to about 20% of the system over the next decade or so.
We know there's a Ministry of Energy, there's a power division, there's a petroleum division. How's the coordination after this? And actually it was suggested that this should be done. So you appreciate that this has been done, and how's the coordination?
We are working on it to improve the coordination between the two very closely related divisions in energy.
There is a lack of coordination and communication right now?
I hate to say it, but there has been. And you've seen the recent sort of gas shortage and the resulting power generation shortage, and as a result, us having to burn fuel oil instead of LNG, that's clearly means we got to get our act together and be more coordinated and work with each other's demand forecasts more closely.
इसके साथ ही हमारे खुसूसी प्रोग्राम का अख्ताम होता है. इजाज़त दीजिए. अल्लाह हाफ़िज़.